can't help but think, if I had a 14-year-old son, he certainly wouldn't be getting stopped and searched 60 times over the course of 2 years. What this tells me is, aren't the police right to stop and search some people? Because they do have to have reasonable grounds. And at the end of the day, there are victims, many victims, are young black men themselves. So we have to put the victims first and stop worrying about offending people carrying knives.
Yes, but I totally agree that the police have there's certain times the police should be stopping and searching people, and that's primarily to allay any suspicion that the person has committed an offence or has something of note that's like a weapon on them. But once that interaction has been, that fear has been allayed, they're supposed to stop and end the encounter in a good way. What this report highlights quite clearly is a systemic failure in all aspects of stop and search. Yes, and my thing is simply this, is that we have been, in the black community, have been complaining for decades about the unfairness and the biasness around stop and search, particularly towards young black men. Now we're even finding young black women being caught up in this vice as well, which is unacceptable.
Yeah, OK, what's the solution, Kenny? You know, look, I hear what you're saying. You know, I've got old man's, but I've never been stopped and searched. I don't think that's necessarily just because I'm white, though, to be fair. But what is the solution, Ken? Look,
I think the report highlights a lot of the solution. It's, again, if we need to have a serious conversation about the effectiveness of stop and search. We're told stop and search is good for getting weapons off our street, but the police themselves tells you that every month they do around about 20,000 stops and search, and they may find up to 300 weapons. That represent 1.5% of the stop and search. So my thing is that we've got to find a better way of getting a positive outcome.
You say only 300 knives off the street, 1.5%, that figure you quote. But to me, that's 300 knives that would have otherwise been on the street, which may go on to kill multiple people. So actually, I don't see this as a case of only 300 knives being taken off the street.
Well, I can say that because I'm also I'm the chair of the Harrogate Communities Against Violence, and we work with other groups like Fire and Poor, who takes many more knives off the street. Off of young people off the street, many more knives. And these people who we take knives off of, they're more unlikely to rearm themselves with a knife, unlike when the police stops them. When the police stops them, they're saying they're carrying knives to safeguard themselves. Just because the police take the knives from them doesn't mean that they aren't going to rearm themselves. What those young people tell us is that they much prefer to be caught with by the police with a knife on them than to be caught by their opposition without it. Because one of them will take them to be judged by 12 of their peers. The other could mean that they'll be carried to their grave by 6 of their peers.
I understand that. Look, just putting the other side of this up, Ken, you know, that's my job, really. I suppose you'd say everyone gets searched at airport security and they might only ever find one bomb, say, in every few years. I suppose something maybe that we would all accept. But could I ask, a lot of people watching this, Ken, right, would go, I could never imagine carrying a knife. I could never imagine. I would, don't want to sound too much like a former US president, but I would just say no. Right? What would your response be for that? Because some people would go, look, whatever your circumstances, the second you carry a knife and you go out there, whatever happens at that point on becomes your own fault.
Look, I as a young man, I used to carry a knife myself. So, and the thing is, I was well aware of stop and search. And each time I got stopped and searched, I never got found with a knife because I took actions that mean that you would never find the knife on me at that time. The young people are doing the same because I'm telling you this, back in my days, we used to carry flick knives and smaller knives that we can hide quite easily. Nowadays, they're carrying zombie knives, Rambo knives, and swords in bigger quantities. And the police, the evidence are that the police are not taking these off our streets. What they are doing, they're stopping too many young people on the pretense of the smell of cannabis. for personal possession. Cannabis is not the issue. Knives and guns are the issue.
Yeah, sorry, maybe I misunderstood, but I believe you just made a cracking case of stop and search, Ken, because you say that now people are walking around with zombie knives and swords. And for me, that's the case right there for why we should be stopping people, regardless of whether or not they happen to smell of cannabis, just in case, you know?
No, well, the evidence shows that even when they do stop them for cannabis and search them, they're not finding knives. So my thing is that you got to work with the community that is affected from knife crime much more effectively to find out who are carrying the knives so that we can better target them. I would prefer that if you have been convicted for carrying knives, that you should be repeatedly stopped to ensure that you're not carrying the knives. But what we're finding all too often, they are stopping ordinary young people going about their lawful business, and all they're doing is further alienating that very community that needs the support.
Just very quickly, Cam, would you defund the police?
Sorry?
Would you defund the police?
Not at all, but what I would do, I would have stronger accountability and transparency around stop and search and its effective use. That's what I would do.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.